The landscape of horror games is forever changing, with a massive diversity of titles, ranging from original ideas to those inspired by many iconic games of old. In recent times, we have seen many intriguing and terror-filled experiences reach our screens, ranging from remakes of genre-defining classics with pixelated and low-poly outings to hyper-realistic, bloody visual feasts that leave you wondering how the horror of this depiction is even possible. Technology and concepts have come a long way since the days of early pixelated horror experiences, and each new year brings about many new terrifying ideas, providing more ways to scare players in ways they could never think of. Thanks to the depraved minds that are constantly looking for new ways to terrorize players, we now have many more tension-filled experiences to look forward to in the not-so-distant future. Whatever format or platform you choose to experience these titles on, just know that there is always a terrifying experience waiting to be discovered. And here we are going to look at some of these upcoming horror games that you should try that will provide more dark, eerie and atmospheric elements you so desperately crave. Bloody Inc. is a first-person psychological horror game that aims to instill anxiety, distress and terror, seeing your nightmares come to life, to scare you in ways that you never thought were possible. You will follow the role as Luca, who has recently just lost his job, where he is now living day to day just as a means to survive, but it is where in his new job that his nightmare begins. With the environments that you explore, you will find and discover many unknown mysteries, stories and dark lore that you were definitely never meant to see. The game will see you exploring many environments, looking for items of interest and useful features to help you survive, while also solving puzzles that will focus on a lot of jump scares in order to create even more tension as you play. A very interesting experience that is sure to unsettle a lot of players. And if you want to try this out, currently there is a demo available that you can try, that you can play on Steam. The theme around Backrooms style of games has seen a massive explosion in trends over recent times, with many developers and studios trying to cash in on this unique idea. So with this upcoming title, simply known as Backrooms, the game is played from an online co-op experience, where you can play with your friends across a variety of different dynamic levels, where you must face the unknown together, and you have to work as a team to solve very strategically placed puzzles and immerse yourself in a very chilling narrative and atmosphere if you are to survive. It is an interesting take on this style of game that will present a whole diversity of unique ideas while also presenting a very chilling experience. Beyond Hanwell expands on the events from the original game in the series to explore and discover a world beyond the original location of an unsettling asylum that sees you setting out to explore and navigate darker yet deeper parts of the City of London, to explore areas of Westminster, to uncover the many truths behind the enigmatic stranger known as the Director. You will explore rich, dark yet atmospheric environments with various locations filled with lore and many secrets to discover. You will need to scavenge for supplies, resources and weapons to help you on your journey in order to survive, where monsters and unknown creatures will lurk from the shadows, waiting in silence to terrorise you at every turn. Played from a first-person perspective, the game is detailed and rich in atmosphere as you explore each of the dense, darkly lit environments that will definitely heighten the tension as you explore each location in the game. Broken Veil is a horror-based puzzle platformer that sets you in a small Russian town through the eyes of a young boy, where you must help him search through a faceless crowd for the most important person in his life, his mother. You will explore many realistic environments where you must always be aware of your surroundings, as there are many dangers and horrors that are always lying in wait for you to cross paths with them, where you will have to run, jump, hide and use whatever means necessary in order to survive. This is more than just a typical platformer. There are many interesting yet dark horror elements that will definitely leave you with a lasting impression to make you realise that these games aren't always what they seem. Chilla Art's new upcoming horror-themed adventure, Jimmu, sees the plot around protagonist waking up on an island where he has been attacked by many evil creatures, to later find out that the island and the villages surrounding it have all been cursed. So in order to survive, your goal will be to become a hunter, where the game will take place across non-linear maps and open world environments that will mix in RPG elements with exploration, where you must craft weapons, find items of interest, and use whatever means possible in order to survive. A Japanese horror novel adventure set in Japan in 1999 that sees you confront many urban legends, folklore and curses that are haunting a local hospital, where you will have to confront many paranormal entities, and your choices will define certain outcomes with regards to the overall story and plot. This is a very different take on a typical horror game, as it's presented in more of a unique visual style, but will present a real chilling element and very unique atmosphere, where your choices will define how the story flows, where you'll engage in conversations with a diverse and captivating cast of characters, while trying to confront a variety of horrifying and bizarre events. So if you enjoy narrative-driven horror games, this might be a title that would be worth a look. Behind the creative minds of the Remothered series of horror games, By Sweet Carol is a narrative-driven horror-inspired game that plays out like a Disney movie, with beautiful hand-drawn animations and visually stunning set pieces, presenting a very different dynamic to the horror-driven experience, where you will have to explore many dark, eerie environments, but you must also be aware of your surroundings, as there is an ever-threatening presence, an entity that is always looking for you, where you must use the environment and your surroundings to your advantage to run, jump and hide, to expose the truth of this chilling narrative that presents many terrifying elements and a very unique story that presents a truly one-of-a-kind horror experience that you don't often see. Dark Fracture is a psychological horror experience, where you will explore ever-changing worlds that sees you explore many dark environments, witnessing the differences between reality and nightmares colliding as you descend into some of the darkest depths of the human psyche, where you will deal with madness and many tormented nightmares that will definitely affect your mental state, while also trying to deal with individual events from a tragic past. The game is played from a first-person experience, where you will need to explore many of the game's dimly lit and dark corridors and environments, looking for items of interest, solving puzzles, and utilising a wide variety of tools that you will need in order to progress and survive, while uncovering the dark, chilling narrative that will expose you to even more terrifying horrors of what lurks within. Death Relives is an immersive first-person horror experience that will see you journey as a young man determined to evade the clutches of a mighty Aztec god, that will present many chaotic experiences, all within dark, horrifically themed environments, where you will have to utilise a variety of magical or mystical weapons and spells and various survival mechanics to evade this relentless threat as you try to escape this nightmarish world, where survival is your ultimate objective, where you will be forced to relive the horror over and over again. The Alone in the Dark series is synonymous with the evolution of the survival horror genre that dates way back to the early 90s, long before even the iconic Resident Evil series, but would go through many changes and transitions over the years, in many ways losing its identity, presenting many different experiences, some worthwhile, while others that were better left alone, as they didn't fully depict the true essence of the series in general. But in recent times, a resurgence in remakes from other known known developers, when we look at the likes of the Resident Evil series, more predominantly with the likes of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4 remakes, proved that bringing back classic horror but in a new perspective was a good choice, because it proves that these games can definitely hold their own in the modern era. So in true survival horror fashion, it was inevitable that the granddaddy of this iconic genre would definitely make a resurgence, and in many cases it needs to happen. So as a result, a new remake of Alone in the Dark is about to be unleashed upon us that retells the story of the original title from way back years ago, with updated visuals, characters, voice acting, its own unique story, and even houses familiar faces from iconic actors that you would be familiar with, reprising the roles of Edward Carnby and Emily Hartwood as they journey into the Deserto Manor to investigate the terrors that lurk within. The game will play from an over-the-shoulder perspective like that seen in the Resident Evil remakes, and as those games that came before it, proves that this style of game works. So it will be interesting to see how Alone in the Dark will fare out, and what we can see from the hype building up around this new remake. It could quite possibly become one of the best remakes of an original title that we'll have seen in some time. Taking inspiration from survival horror classics of old, such as Dino Crisis, In Deathground plays out as a co-op survival horror experience in a desperate battle for survival against many horrific dinosaurs and other creatures that are constantly on the hunt to tear you to pieces. So you will always have to use your wits and intrigue in order to evade this ever-impending threat, where you must complete objectives, look for items of interest and weapons in order to survive. You will also need to use stealth in order to remain hidden, as any sudden movement will alert the dinosaurs to your presence, so you must be aware of your surroundings at all times if you ever want to survive. Devil's Hideout is a dark, point-and-click horror experience where you take on the role of a young woman named Lauren, who is trying to find the whereabouts of her sister, to later find out that she is still alive. But you also have to deal with a group of cultists that have staged her death, and that also want to use her for many diabolic rituals and experiments. So it will be your job to search for clues, to uncover the events behind this nightmare, and to try and save your sister. The game plays out from a beautifully crafted, old-school, pixelated, drawn environment, where you will uncover many diverse and beautifully crafted locations that all present a very dark and rich atmosphere, where you will have to solve puzzles, find items of interest, to also uncover the plot behind the cultists' intentions if you are to save your sister and survive. Currently there is a playable demo on Steam should you wish to try it out. Digested is a hyper-realistic, visually styled horror game, played from a first-person perspective that sees you trying to avoid a giant mutated snake that is constantly trying to eat you alive. You will explore many open-world environments, from dark, eerie buildings to desolate forests and wastelands, while also trying to be aware of your surroundings at all times to avoid this ever-constant threat. So your goal will be to use a variety of different strategies, use maps, find items of interest in order to remain hidden and to survive, so that you can reach the extraction point and escape. So you will need to plan your actions carefully, navigate smartly, and do whatever you can to not get eaten alive. Dying 1983 is a first-person horror experience where you will be forced into different scenarios where you must solve many puzzles, all within dark and atmospheric locations, where each puzzle will uncover more clues as to the events that are unfolding, as you are trapped within a very unusual location with no means of survival or escape. So your only goal is to try and uncover the narrative that lies within to make sense of what is really going on. But you also have to be mindful of the many dark terrors and monsters that that lurk within. As you dive deeper into the narrative, you will uncover the madness that lies within. So in order to survive, you must learn to understand rules and exploit them if you have any chance for survival. Elexium is an atmospheric point-and-click horror experience, playing the role as an exorcist, where you will need to face many nightmarish demons and occult rituals by casting a variety of different spells and utilising your skills by improvised means in order to restore balance and eradicate this demonic threat. Beyond your journey, you will uncover many dark secrets as to the narrative and understanding as to why these events are unfolding, where you will explore many dark and dimly lit environments while trying to evade an ever-impending threat of a demonic entity that has been cursed and transformed into a hideous creature that will stop at nothing to find you and rip you to pieces. So you will need to perform many spells and rituals in order to eradicate this threat. And with it being a point and click adventure, the game presents itself in beautifully hand-drawn visuals where you will explore many unusual settings and locations where you will need to search for items, complete puzzles, and also utilise various environmental elements in order to help you survive this ever-impending threat. Infestation Origins is a tension-filled co-op horror experience, seeing you play as a group of exterminators, dealing with a sinister threat, seeing you trying to eradicate many mutated creatures and monsters that depict themselves as twisted versions of classic characters and urban legends. All played from a first-person experience, where you will have to explore many dimly lit and dark environments, where you will have to work as a team to solve puzzles and utilise a variety of weapons and resources to eradicate the threat and survive. Jawbreaker presents a very different survival horror experience that forces you to try and escape from the confines of an unusual facility that is now home to crazed individuals and a terrifying gang-infested society, all within a collapsed city where people themselves are the real monsters, where they will constantly hunt you down as if they are playing a game. But you will later discover that it's not just these crazed individuals that are haunting the hallways of the facility. You will also learn to discover that there's even more sinister entities and creatures that lie in wait the further you explore, where you must utilise a variety of weapons and tools and resources while also using stealth to hide from your pursuers in order to survive. Kakuryo is an online co-op horror experience, played from a classic 2D perspective, very similar to old school RPG games from earlier systems, that sees you playing as a team of young teenagers that are investigating a distorted world to purge a deadly curse, where you will witness many demonic rituals take place that will transform elements of your surroundings and even people that you'll interact with into hideous demonic creatures. So your goal will be to search your surroundings for any means necessary to survive, escape, but also to close the portal to the demonic realm to stop this impending threat from invading Earth. The game itself takes many elements and inspiration from classic Japanese horror films that focuses on providing a sense of traditional terror and horror. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is a co-op based survival horror game that is based on the cult movie of the 80s, where you will need to gather a team of survivors to fight off the extraterrestrial threat, where you will take on many crazy entities with demonic powers that will stop at nothing to torture and tear your body to pieces. So you will need to utilise a variety of weapons, items of interest, resources and a range of skills to defeat your opponents and survive, while also utilising stealth tactics to hide in the shadows, to evade this dangerous threat, but to also catch your opponents off guard in order to defeat them. Lazarette is a psychological, atmospheric, first-person horror experience where you play a member of a rescue team called out to investigate a distress signal coming from a ship that disappeared over 4 years ago. You will need to uncover the events of what happened to the ship, as you are left stranded and alone within a derelict setting where the crew appears to have just vanished. But you will soon uncover that many dark elements, creatures and entities lie in wait and lurk within the shadows, so you will need to run and hide in order to stay alive, while also trying to uncover the truth about what happened on this ship. Level 0 is a dark yet hyper-realistic visual horror experience. Sees you taking on the role of a team of scientists trying to repair electrical systems within the confines of dark caves and underground locations that has now become inhabited by many dark and terrifying creatures, where light is your only weapon. So you will need to collect loot, items of interest and resources to try and slow down the monsters from constant pursuit, and utilise elements within your surroundings and environments to avoid the many threats that lie in wait. You will also need to be mindful of your resources, as the enemies and the monsters themselves are opposed to the light, so you will need to use that to your advantage, but you must also be aware that your resources are limited and eventually they will run out, so you will need to keep that in mind as you venture through this dark, chilling tale. Little Nightmares 3 is the third entry in this unique horror-filled experience, where you will play through many atmospheric and tension-filled environments to solve puzzles, use stealth, and use whatever means necessary to avoid enemies and escape. You will also be able to play with your friends through online co-op or in solo campaigns, where you will need to be mindful of your surroundings and use your wits in order to escape this dark realm and survive. Madhouse Madness is a chilling, dark, psychological horror experience that sees you play as a social media influencer doing a live stream while you explore an old, gothic, abandoned asylum to try and uncover the many stories and elements that lurk within. You'll soon discover upon entering the asylum that you are now trapped within, where you will be ensnared by an unimaginable and relenting horror experience, where you must unravel mysteries and hide from nightmarish entities to uncover the dark truths and the realities of this forgotten building, all while being broadcast to a live audience, to provide a very immersive experience to understand that it won't be just you that will witness the horror that plays out. Dollhouse of Offerings presents a story about an urban legend surrounding an unusual box that is all presented in a Japanese style visual novel narrative that revolves around madness, love and hate. You will need to make many choices with regards to uncovering the story's plot, to uncover that an oppressed group of individuals have played a role around the events surrounding this mysterious box. This is a visual narrative driven experience with beautifully hand-drawn visuals that will act as an interactive novel where each choice will define a different outcome that will present many different endings depending on your choices, so there will be a lot of replay value with plenty of story arcs all presented in a dark and chilling narrative. Mouthwashing is a narrative-driven, first-person horror experience following the events of a dying crew of a shipwrecked space freighter. You will uncover the many dark elements of this chilling narrative, where you will see the wrongdoings of many hideous things that happen to people, witnessing very unusual events that will unfold, that will play with your sanity, and to realise that all isn't what it seems, to understand that your mind alone isn't your only adversary on this journey. Massacre at the Mirage invites you to a night of terror as you try to avoid a demonic entity that is trying to hunt you down and kill you, all in the confines of an old rundown movie theatre during the events of a movie that's been played out. As the movie plays, the sinister character is brought to life in real time and his only goal is to hunt you down and to tear you to pieces. So you will need to use your wits about you in order to run, hide and survive at all costs. The game is played from a first person experience, so you will need to use the environment to your surroundings, where you will have to use elements to hide and run away from this ever sinister threat. And the game presents a very dark and tension filled atmosphere as you never really know what's hiding in wait and lurking around the dark corridors of this old movie theatre. Hollowbody is a futuristic tech-noir style survival horror game that is set among the wastelands of an urban decay of a long forgotten part of a British city that has been long abandoned for unknown reasons. You will find yourself being grounded inside of an exclusion zone after your ship comes into complications, forcing you to crash land within the environment. So with no means of escape, you will have to explore the many dimly lit corridors, hallways, buildings, even exploring the many streets, estates and various locations that are left derelict, where you will find out that people no longer live in the area, but something else even more sinister lies in wait. And the game takes a lot of inspiration from classic survival horror games, mainly with Silent Hill, with the use of dark, dimly lit and eerie locations that creates a very foreboding sense of atmosphere and tension. It will really keep you on edge as you play, as you never really know where threats are going to come from, as everything hides and lurks in the shadows. So your goal will be to try and find as much items and resources as possible, but also fight to stay alive as you try to scale the walls to escape the exclusion zone. Nuemata is a psychological horror experience that sees you play the role of a detective trying to unravel the truth of your fragmented memories, while trying not to succumb to the horrors that lurk within the shadows, within sinister and terror-filled environments, where you must piece together clues to uncover the truth of your fragmented memories that presents and depicts many gruesome and horrific scenes and elements that you will face on your journey to find the truth. A very dark and chilling narrative awaits you in this terror-filled experience that will definitely leave a lasting impact long after you have played. In Shadow Corridor 2, you will find yourself being surrounded by vast darkness within environments where you must run and hide from frightening apparitions while utilising a variety of items and resources and weapons to try and hold back the ever-impending threat. In your desperate search to escape from the darkness, you will also uncover unique special powers and abilities which you will gain from special cards that you will need to use against the many paranormal entities that lurk within the surroundings in order to hold them back if you want to escape alive. Constant movement and stealth will be your key to survival in this game, as enemies are never too far away and are always in constant pursuit, so you will need to utilise these elements if you truly want to survive. Nuemata is a psychological horror experience that sees you play the role of a detective trying to unravel the truth of your fragmented memories, while trying not to succumb to the horrors that lurk within the shadows, within sinister and terror-filled environments, where you must piece together clues to uncover the truth of your fragmented memories that presents and depicts many gruesome and horrific scenes and elements that you will face on your journey to find the truth. A very dark and chilling narrative awaits you in this terror-filled experience that will definitely leave a lasting impact long after you have played. Ground Zero sees you fighting through a post-apocalyptic South Korea after a devastating meteor impact that has destroyed the country and left it in ruins, but has also turned every living organism into a terrifying monstrosity. So you are sent in as part of an undercover team to investigate the reasons behind these disasters and to uncover the origins behind what caused all of the living organisms to transform and change. Seeing the game play out in a very similar visual style, utilising fixed camera perspectives and pre-rendered backgrounds seen in classic Resident Evil titles, where you will have to utilise a variety of weapons and combat systems while solving puzzles and utilising a variety of tools and features in order to survive. Ammunition and resources will be very limited, so you will need to make sure that every bullet counts, and when an enemy goes down you will need to make sure that it stays down. But there are some additional elements to this title where with each encounter with enemies you must also uncover data by studying their remains in order to collect enough information so that you can use it as a means to upgrade your current abilities, stats, and gain access to more weapons. Currently the game is in active development, but there is no known information as to an upcoming release date, but you can check out a trailer and gather more information over on the game's Steam page. Paranormal Tales is a next-gen horror experience built upon the Unreal 5 engine that utilises hyper-realistic visuals that plays from a viewpoint of a body cam but has elements of VHS style cameras of classic technology, finding yourself exploring many open environments and buildings while trying to hide and evade the many demonic threats that constantly pursue you. It presents a very dark and chilling tale, but with its hyper-realistic graphics, among some of the most visually impressive ever seen in a video game, game will definitely only heighten the tension due to the realism that is on show. The game is still in active development, but currently there is no known updates with regards to any known release date, but this is definitely one to keep an eye out for. Soul Devourer is a horror-themed Metroidvania action platformer that plays from a classic 2D style, where you will explore a vast and cursed high school where you must fight against twisted and demonic entities and a variety of other monsters to uncover the long-buried secrets concealed within the school. You will explore many eerie and dangerous worlds and environments filled with twisted and crazed monsters that will stop at nothing to try and take you out, all played from beautifully hand-drawn visuals that depict classic games of old, but with enough atmospheric and fast-paced elements that will definitely appeal to both action and horror fans alike. Silent Night is an atmospheric, adventure-filled horror experience that sees you searching through the remnants of a long-forgotten, haunted church that is filled with angry spirits that are hell-bent on taking revenge, revolving around an ancient crime. So you play the role of a ghost hunter that has been sent in to investigate the case and to uncover the events as to why these events are unfolding. This game allows you to play from a multitude of different perspectives, from fixed cameras to third person, even over the shoulder, and first person views, and even also gives you elements to play from a point and click perspective if you want to do that also. So there's many ways in which to experience this game that will definitely suit and appeal to a variety of different style of players and individuals alike. That will give you the ability to explore many of the game's unique environments, from graveyards to cryptic caves and crypts, all with the goal to try and uncover the events behind this unique story. Paranormal Records is a story-driven psychological horror experience where you will experience a chilling narrative and perspective, all from the use of a video camera, where you will explore many abandoned buildings and environments with the aim to create a TV show about the paranormal in an old abandoned psychiatric hospital. But as you explore the confines of this building, you will uncover the many dark elements surrounding the mentally ill patients that once populated the many corridors and rooms within the facility, where their lasting presence can be felt within each environment that you explore, where you must uncover clues as to the events that have occurred here. There is currently a playable demo available on Steam should you wish to try. In Strange Shadow, the goal is simple. You must run and hide from many scary giant creatures that are in constant pursuit, looking for their next victim, with your inevitable goal to try and find a way to escape. But you will find yourself running and hiding through many terror-filled environments, with hideous, grotesque monsters of a vastly superior size in constant pursuit, so you will need to have your wits about you to evade attacks and the impending threats that are never ending. Still Wakes the Deep is a narrative-driven first-person horror experience set during the 1970s on board an old oil rig deep within the ocean that has been inhabited by otherworldly and demonic elements, where the crew are becoming victims to an ever-impending demonic threat that defies logic and reality. As a worker on the rig, you must fight for your life through a vicious storm, while all being surrounded by dark foes that are lurking within the shadows. So your goal will be to try and search for your fellow crew members to help them survive by running, climbing, hiding, using stealth, and using whatever means necessary in order to survive. The game is played from a hyper-realistic and detailed first-person experience with some stunning visuals that really depict the essence of horror, that creates a very dynamic and tension-filled atmosphere that will really have you on edge throughout the experience. Paranormal Investigators is a 4-player co-op horror experience where you play as a team of hosts, broadcasting a TV show as you explore abandoned houses and buildings with paranormal activity to try and uncover events or witness any surreal elements that you can then use for footage. But what you will witness will be beyond anything that you could ever have imagined, seeing you bear witness to many unusual threats where items move around you, doors slamming, lights flickering, and unusual entities that lurk within the shadows that will provide a very chilling narrative and darkly filled experience that will definitely keep you on your toes as you fight to survive the ever impending threat of the darkness. Can you survive until dawn? Only time will tell. In Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, you will discover many vast locations within the Chernobyl exclusion zone that is filled with dangerous enemies, deadly anomalies, with powerful artifacts that you must uncover in order to help you on your journey for survival while uncovering the truth behind the terrifying events that unfold. Following on from the events of the first game, you will face many demonic and mutated threats, all situated within dark, dimly lit environments and beautifully crafted visual worlds that will heighten the tension and atmosphere as you play. But it won't be just monsters you will face on your journey, so you will have to have your wits about you if you truly want to survive. Suffocate is a first-person survival horror experience set in modern-day Taiwan, surrounding the events of an old mansion that is home to many demonic entities and spirits, seeking unbearable memories and many truths that will need to be uncovered as you explore the environment within. But as you explore the environments, many threats will be in constant pursuit of you, where you must run, hide, solve puzzles and use whatever means necessary in order to survive. Stealth will be your greatest weapon to survive the darkness that lurks within this old mansion. Heavily inspired by classic slasher horror films of the 80s and 90s that serve as a massive source of inspiration comes Terror at Oakheart, following a series of events around a small community that has been terrorised by a masked serial killer. There are a lot of people that are starting to go missing, and as a result people are becoming scared. So the game will have you play as a selection of different characters, where each choice will define different outcomes, but you must also utilise any means possible in order to survive an unrelenting threat, as this serial killer would stop at nothing in order to take your life in the most gruesome and hideous ways. And anything that you throw at it, nothing seems to stop it. But you will later discover that there's a bigger purpose behind the serial killer and his motives. The game plays out from beautifully crafted pixel art visuals that reflect games of old, but also add in modern elements to add tension and atmosphere that will really impact the player as you play. And currently you can gain access to play the first chapter of the game that is now available on Steam. Set within the world of Dead by Daylight comes another experience in the casting of Frank Stone that sees a group of young friends discover the events behind the insane acts caused by a very disturbed person that has left many scars on families throughout generations around a small town that has destroyed the very fabric of reality itself. You will uncover many truths and witness many heinous acts within the town that has all been altered by the enemy's violent past, where you will need to discover the legacy behind these insane acts to put an end to the madness once and for all. But this game also tells a chilling tale that a single person or human can cause so much chaos and disruption that proves that real monsters lurk within the mind. They Are Here is a first-person horror, story-driven narrative experience where you play the role of a journalist who is witness to an alien abduction within a local farm that sees the story of the game being heavily inspired by iconic movies and TV shows with the likes of The X-Files among many others, where you will explore the environments within the farm to notice that there's many unusual creatures that lurk within the shadows and surroundings of the environments, where you will uncover many clues that tell a chilling tale of the manipulation and the changes in people's and humans' behaviour for many of the local town's inhabitants. So you will need to investigate the area, search for artefacts, items of interest, clues, notes and documents, while studying many photos, audio snippets and videotapes to uncover the many clues behind these series of events that are occurring. But you must also be aware of your surroundings if you don't want to become the next victim. Unfollow is a surreal horror experience where you play a victim of bullying and many traumatic events that have reflected on your personal life that will force you to uncover many dark mysteries in a thrilling journey of terror. As you explore the dark, eerie environments of the game, you will witness the dark and impactful elements of your mental state as everything around you reflects on how you feel in the moment, seeing you bear witness to many dark depictions and hideous entities that are all reflective of your current mind state but are brought to real life through your nightmares. The game will present multiple endings depending on choices that you make that will give you many different areas and unique story elements to explore, all played from a first-person perspective with hyper-realistic visuals and graphics that will present one of the most dark and chilling horror experiences that you will witness in the modern era of horror games. Cabrona is a beautifully crafted point-and-click horror experience that utilises some stunning hand-drawn visuals to depict the essence of a horrific narrative, seeing you struggle with your own mortality as a young vampire, where you are constantly fighting to retain your humanity while also trying not to succumb to the horrors that lurk within. The game presents a very dark and chilling narrative but offers up very different gameplay elements with RPG features to allow you to level your character up as you progress through the game's plot. Don't let the visuals of this game fool you, as it is a very dark and chilling experience that will definitely leave a lasting impact, where your choices and the people you interact with can definitely define a different outcome for your future. To the Grave is a psychological, narrative-driven puzzle experience that utilises many horror and psychological elements that are reflective of classic games such as the Twilight series that would have been seen on the original PlayStation, where everything is played from a 2D perspective with beautifully crafted visuals that create a real sense of foreboding atmosphere and tension as you explore the many dim and darkly lit environments to search for clues as to the reasons why the events are occurring in front of you. But you also have to battle and avoid many demonic threats and entities that will stop at nothing to stop you in your pursuit of uncovering the truth. And as you search and solve puzzles, you will always have to be mindful of your surroundings, as one false move or one bad choice will lead to instant death. While We Wait Here is a dark, chilling narrative that sees you witness the events of the end of the world, where you will bear witness to many strange ongoings and elements with catastrophic occurrences that lead up to the end of humanity as we know and see it, as it ceases to exist, where every choice that you make will define a variety of different outcomes with many different endings. In Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, you will play the role of an elder vampire as you fight your way through a modern day Seattle that is on the brink of an open war, where you will meet various characters and allies on your quest to become the overall ruler of the city. The game plays from a first person perspective in open world environments, where every choice you make defines various outcomes with regards to the story's narrative, while also adding in RPG elements that will allow you to upgrade your character's abilities and features. The game is very dark and foreboding in its atmosphere, with a lot of tension that mixes up action but with yet slow paced elements that really allows you to capture the essence of the overall story. A very popular series with many entries dating back over previous generations, so this new entry will definitely appeal to fans of the classic series. In Tormentor, you take on the role of a merciless torturer, where you hunt down victims and torture and murder them in the most brutal and horrific ways known to man, where you will then use money from video transmissions of your torments to then buy new victims and acquire new torture tools to expand your prison so that you can extend the madness beyond what is deemed capable of the human mind. The character you play as is completely ruthless, with no empathy or mercy, and your only goal is to literally just destroy and tear everything apart that you see as you play games within the prison. So you allow your victims to escape only to hunt them down one by one and use the most grotesque and hideous ways possible in order to torture and dismember them, all while capturing them live on camera. Following on the events from the first game, Tormented Souls 2 sees you reprise the role of Caroline Walker in a desperate search to find and save your sister from the embrace of many terrifying creatures and demonic entities, where you will have to explore many dark and foreboding environments, from gothic churches to old mansions, graveyards, caves that have all been consumed by a demonic curse, where you will have to confront many terrifying creatures on your journey, where you will have to make use of makeshift weapons, items and resources to aid on your quest for survival. If you are familiar with the first game in the series, the sequel also plays from a fixed camera perspective, utilising beautifully crafted, dark, eerie and atmospheric environments that adds elements of psychological horror that's very reflective of classic Silent Hill games seen on the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 consoles. So if you're a fan of classic survival horror, Tormented Souls 2 will definitely bring you back to the nostalgic era of one of the horror genre's greatest outings. Post-Trauma is a psychological and dark, narrative-inspired horror game that takes a lot of its inspiration from classic survival horror games, more predominantly with the earlier Silent Hill games from Konami, that sees you play as Roman, a middle-aged train conductor that's trapped in a twisted, terrifying reality, where you must explore many unknown locations to unravel mysteries as to the events that are unfolding, while you must utilise any means possible, from solving puzzles to finding weapons and items of interest, to survive against the many unspeakable horrors that you will face. Within the twisted reality of your surroundings, you will solve many mysteries and deal with many threats that lurk in the shadows of your surroundings, all with the intention to uncover the truth so that you can escape and to get back to your family. Silent Hill 2 is often considered by many to be among the greatest survival horror experiences of all time, if not the greatest ever made, that takes a lot of inspiration from the iconic first game that was seen on the original PlayStation console, but expand upon it in many different ways, adding even more psychological references and terror-filled experiences that was beyond anything seen at the time. So with Konami looking to rebuild and revive and create a resurgence for the series, it was inevitable that quite possibly the greatest game in the series was going to get a remake. When we look at the popularity behind recent remakes and other known franchises with Resident Evil, and even with the upcoming Alone in the Dark remake, Silent Hill 2 was also going to get the same treatment. There are a lot of questions surrounding the development of this remake. Many would believe that the game doesn't need a remake at all, as it is a masterpiece in its own right, but only time will tell. But from the early renditions and trailers that we currently see, it definitely gives a lot of promise. And if it stays true to the original, we could quite possibly have one of the greatest remakes of all time. But it won't be long before we will see for ourselves, as only time will tell. Echoes of the Living is becoming one of the most hyped horror experiences currently in development in recent times, that takes heavy inspiration from survival horror classics, mainly with the classic Resident Evil series, more predominantly Resident Evil 2 and 3, that were originally seen on the PlayStation, where you take on the role as two distinctive characters, each with their own story arcs, where you must survive an onslaught of enemies and other grotesque and hideous creatures, all during the events of an outbreak in a local town. In order to survive, as seen with classic survival horror games, you will have to solve puzzles, explore many distinctive and unique environments that is rich in atmosphere, providing much tension to each of the experiences that will unfold, while you must also utilise weapons and items of interest in order to heal yourself and survive, while also trying to not be eaten alive or torn to pieces by the many hideous abominations that roam the streets. Fans of classic Resident Evil games will definitely look forward to this experience, as currently this game is the closest depiction to classic survival horror beyond anything seen in recent times, so it is definitely one to look out for. This list provides a unique outlook on the future of horror games, with some interesting titles that are worth investing time in to discover new meanings of how horror can be depicted in more innovative ways. There is so much to discover, even with more games being rumoured to be in development, to keep the supply of atmospheric tension fresh in our minds, knowing that we can never truly escape the madness, which is why you need to check out this next video that will look at even more horror inspired titles and how they will continue to evolve the landscape of the horror genre.